So since 28 years later is now out in theaters, I wanted to talk about the franchise as a whole today. More specifically, what makes it so special to me. A lot of people will break it down and take you through all the facts and the nitty gritty details and tell you, what year it came out and this and that and why it's like so technically perfect. But I personally just wanted to have a more casual view on it and just give my opinion on why I love it so much. Um, my first experience to it was kind of unique. I watched 28 Days Later like on a random weekday while my wife was away at school. And I just kind of watched it in my room by myself in the dark. And I didn't really know what to expect from it because this was before all the craze. I feel like when I watched this, it was probably like 6 years or 4 or 5 years ago, and it wasn't as popular as it is now. Especially with the new movie coming out, I feel like people talk about it a lot more. But yeah, I watched it in my room, and I didn't really expect much because the quality it didn't really look that great. I didn't really know Cillian Murphy at the time. Obviously, Oppenheimer and Peaky Blinders. I also watched that show recently, so um, now I have much more of a high opinion on him. But before, I honestly didn't know much of his work aside from Batman. So I watched it and I was just like blown away because I'm a person. I love horror movies. I'm not like a horror expert. I don't watch just any and every horror movie. I'm very particular with what I like and what I watch. And that also goes for zombie movies because I feel like there's a lot of tropes and a lot of subgenres in horror that can get kind of, how do you put it, like muddy or kind of messy, where it's like, all right, this is like shark movies, for example. I mean, those for me never really do anything other than Jaws. But yeah, I mean, I think a zombie movie especially is hard to nail because there's so many factors. Like, what kind of zombies are you going to have? Will you have a hopeful ending, a non-hopeful ending? What kind of zombies will they be? Are they even going to be zombies? And that kind of takes me into my first point about what makes this franchise so special is like technically it's not a zombie franchise. It's not zombie movies. And I mean, people lump it in with that because, to be fair, it is like the easiest thing to do because, technically they're infected, but there's not really a subgenre for just infected. I mean, there's maybe like a handful of movies, but not enough. And that being said, I mean, it really differentiates this franchise because instead of having like a airborne pathogen or like a bite that leads to becoming an undead, killing machine where the only way you can be stopped is by taking off the head. I mean, these zombies are unique. They're not zombies. Like I said, they're infected people who are infected with rage, like just pure rage. I mean, if you haven't seen the first one, it starts out with, these animal activists freeing a monkey being experimented on. And the experiment is scientists infecting the monkey with rage by showing them the worst sides of humanity on a loop for God knows how long. The scientist tries to get them to stop, and they don't. So, naturally, you wouldn't have a movie. So they release him, and he goes apeshit. And the thing is, this virus or infection can spread through bites or any contact with like blood. To my knowledge, I think those are the only two ways. So this monkey infects them, and then the difference with this virus is like the time it takes to turn. It's insane. It's literally like 6 seconds, maybe 12, and you're done. And not only that, that takes me to my next point, which is the speed of these zombies. It's a well-known fact, but if you don't know, the zombies in this, the infected in this movie, were the first like quote-unquote zombies to have speed. And George A. Romero is famous for saying like, he doesn't acknowledge these as zombies, or any zombies that are fast. He doesn't acknowledge that as zombies, which is, I mean, he is right to his opinion. The man, like, to my knowledge, basically created zombies. So he definitely deserves to kind of be the voice of, like, fact on this matter. But in my opinion, I do think there's still zombies. If you don't know, George A. Romero made, the original zombie film, Night of the Living Dead. He's very famous for his work with the creatures, but it's also well known that his version is more like a ghoul, which is kind of confusing, especially for me, because I don't really know the difference. I'm like, okay, well, ghoul, zombie, okay, I mean, they seem to be the same kind of thing, but, especially after watching this movie or even a movie like World War Z, you come to find out there's a difference. I mean, the zombies that can run are just, it's a game changer. It's a well-known, like, joke or thing said on the internet where it's like, if you see running zombies, like Dying Light zombies, World War Z, or 28 Days Later, you're done. You might as well just put a bullet in your head, because there's no way you're beating that. I mean, especially given the situation or the circumstances in 28 Days Later, not only are they fast, but there's a reason for all of it, honestly. Like, they're basically humans. I mean, they talk in this movie. At one point, Killian is having to murder a zombie, and you could hear the zombie clearly audibly say, "I hate you, I hate you." And again, that's something very new. This movie, this franchise has done a lot for the zombie genre that I feel like isn't credited as much, because I only found out about it by watching or hearing about it in an interview or like a video or something like that. I'm not really sure where, but yeah, I mean, it's not like widely known, at least for me. So the fact that they created fast zombies, but also zombies that are like, still there consciously, which is almost more frightening, because you have to think like, okay, so they're all there mentally. So what is it? Is it like a prison? Is it like, it's kind of like the same discussion people had with The Last of Us, where they debate, like, I saw a post breaking it down where it's like, scientifically speaking, the cordyceps virus wouldn't just like kill your consciousness. You'd more so be like a co-pilot in your own body, or like you'd be like a prisoner in your own body while the virus does what it's doing to people around you, which is so much worse to think about, because it's bad enough being a zombie and being turned into one, but knowing like you're going to be turned into a horrible killing machine and have no life, but also you'll have to witness that entire grueling, possibly endless life, is horrible. Although for the infected in the 28 Days Later franchise, that life may not be endless, because it is also widely known after, honestly, even in the first one they mention it, where it's, they talk about how we're going to wait to see how long it takes for them to starve. And then in 28 weeks later, you do get confirmation that a lot of them either starved off or died of dehydration or, other physical ailments, which is interesting because, like I said, that's kind of the brilliance of not making them zombies, not making them unkillable, because it's like kind of gives you a fair advantage. I mean, I know I said most people say they want to put a bullet in their head if it's these zombies, but unlike Dying Light or World War Z, these are not zombies, so you do in a way have a fighting chance. If you could just outlast them, you'd be good, because it's very interesting to me that they can starve, they can dehydrate. You don't really think of that, but at the same time, it does make sense. I mean, if they're not the undead, they would need food, they would need water, and if they go around killing everyone, they're gonna run out of food, and chances are they're gonna, they might not all be close to a water source. And what are they supposed to do? Like run and just, keep running for days, and then I don't even know. So it is interesting to know that like there is possibilities for them to die other than just like chopping their heads off or shooting them in the head. So I thought that was really cool. And in 28 weeks later, they kind of explore that by moving everyone back to I don't forget which part of London it was, but I think they move them all back to London. Which, side note, by the way, that is ridiculously crazy. And I know I said it's the same thing where it's like, yeah, but if you don't do that, you don't have a movie. And sure, that's very true. But, I mean, would you move back to an area that was full of infected, like literally ground zero for the zombie outbreak, essentially the zombie outbreak? Would you move back there like 28 weeks later after it was deemed clear? I mean, I wouldn't move back there ever, honestly. I would have to see that place like carpet bombed or like literally cleansed with fire for me to even consider moving there. Because the thing is, not only are you, okay, say they cleared out all the infected and they burned all the bodies. Yeah, but there's still going to be blood in places you may not see or know. There's going to be something. And I don't think I'd be able to live like that because, like, what if you have a cut on, you get a paper cut, put your hand on a table, you don't see, like, the speck of blood, and then boom, you're right back to where you started. I just think it's pretty insane. But I'm going on this tangent because I was going to say, in 28 weeks later, they do explain that that's how they got it under control. I mean, luckily it was contained to London, and that was theorized, or no, it was outright said in the first one. In 28 days later, they said the rest of the world is going on like normal, like nothing happened. There was rumors that it spread to New York and Paris, according to Selena, but that was never I mean, that's just what she said. And after you see the plane fly overhead at the end of the movie, I mean, it's pretty clear the rest of the world probably is, which honestly, I don't know if that's more comforting or worse, because like, could you imagine being in that situation? I mean, it would almost feel better to know like, okay, well, at least we're not alone in this, but at the same time, you don't want everyone else to be involved because you want some hope for humanity, like some hope for survival. And that's the other thing that 28 Days Later did really well, was like the realistic problems people would face in that situation. I mean, it was only 28 days after the outbreak, but you see how crazy people were going and how, but it wasn't just crazy though. It was pretty rational, I mean, those guys were going nuts, and it's not rational to do what they did, but I'm saying it's rational to go crazy in that scenario in any way. That being said, I'm glad they all got massacred. I'm glad they all, that part of the movie is one of the things that honestly the first time watching it kind of did make me like sick. Just the thought of what they were going to do. Like it's stuff like that really bothers me, and I'm really glad the movie didn't go there. If you know what I mean, you know what I mean. But I mean, this movie deals with like realism very well. Like it's not one of those zombie movies where everything's super hopeful or one where it's like overly negative. And there is a fine line there, for me at least. I really do think there is such a thing as being too negative, especially in horror. Horror movies can have a tendency to do that, but I'm glad that this one didn't. It's one of those things where Selena is with her friend when she saves Jim, but she kills that friend literally in the blink of an eye because he was infected. Now, she didn't wait for him to turn. She killed him. And that's because, I mean, it's what the world has done to these people in just a month's time. Not even. 28 days is all it took for humanity to snap like that. And all things considered, I think it's pretty rational and pretty justified. So, I mean, these are some of the things that, I'm talking about when it comes to making this franchise different. Where it's like, yeah, some zombie movies or infected movies have taken notes of this, but, I mean, this came out in 2002. This is like a trailblazer, if not like the OG for a lot of the tropes you see in these kind of movies. Another like big infected movie that kind of goes around or gets tossed around is The Crazies. That's also a very good movie, but also, like I said, I could see some stuff that they took from this and implemented there, where I'm like, oh, okay, see, I kind of like that, where The Crazies took it a bit further, whereas, their infected people were just basically straight up human. They weren't like snarling. They weren't like saying bits and pieces of words. I mean, they were like pretty much human, just, well, as the title suggests, crazy. So that's what I'm saying. I think it's awesome to have a movie, and such a cheap one at that. I mean, it was made on an $8 million budget, which doesn't sound cheap to a lot of normal people. But in the grand scheme of movies and movie making, that's very affordable because, I mean, it's hard to do, especially with some of the shots that they accomplished. I mean, if you don't know, there's like big shots of like major tourist parts of London that are like completely shut down. It looks completely empty. And that's because they just had to get creative with the way, they held people off. They would kind of entice them or bribe them to stay, offset for like 5 minutes while they film this one shot. And the dedication is pretty crazy. But, I mean, it pays off, obviously, because now the movie is, in my opinion, it's a cult classic. And it's definitely one of the best of the best in this like kind of subgenre of horror. But I just think it's really interesting how, they go about doing everything. And it's interesting, too, because that plays into the horror of the movie, like the unsettling. Like, because usually you're used to seeing cars and bodies piled up outside and military tanks shut down and helicopters crashed into buildings. But you don't really see any of that in this movie. And I think that just kind of goes to show, like, how quick everything happened. But also, on your first watch through, it just adds the eeriness because you just see Jim walking through this major city and there's nothing, which is almost worse than seeing something. It's kind of the old, I forget who came up with it, but there's like an old saying in horror where it's like, sometimes showing is worse than not. Like, your imagination is worse than anything you could show the audience. So just let them imagine what could be there. Like, fear of the unknown is much worse. And that's kind of true because the whole time you're like, you're waiting for the pin to drop. I mean, even though I said this was a trailblazer in the genre, which it was and is, there's still like something's going to happen. I mean, what kind of movie you're in for. And even at the time it came out, I'm sure people knew, for the most part, what they were getting themselves into. So it is interesting to see, like, no, the pin isn't dropping. He's still walking through. And then when it does drop, I mean, it drops. It's so good. That scene where Killian enters the church and he just, he sees the writing on the wall. He keeps going through, looking for people, and he gets to the top of the church on the balcony, and he just sees the piles of bodies in the church pews. And that is, that's so creepy and so, I mean, it makes so much sense to me, though, because, like, if you think about it, if you get word that the world is probably ending, where do you think a lot of people would probably end up? I mean, my first guess is church, because most people are probably going to accept their fate, especially if they're religious people. They're probably going to welcome the end of the world, honestly. They probably think it's, it's in God's plan. So, and at the time, especially in 2002, you don't have you don't have Instagram, so you're not going to be able to just go on your phone and see if it's happening to the rest of the world. You're probably just going to assume it is. So, yeah, I mean, you probably go to church and accept your fate. But all he says is hello, and then, man, the way they pop up is just crazy. I mean, I still have chills thinking about it. And, like, the first time I watched it, that scene stood out to me personally as the best one. It got me so good. I love it. I think it's done so well. And, even when he has to kill the father, it's hard because he doesn't know what's going on. So you're even more on edge for him because he is clearly still hesitant. I mean, and rightfully so, because just because you see a pile of dead bodies and you see a couple people jerk up really quick, it's 2000. Like I said before, it's 2002, London, England. Your first reaction's probably not going to be like zombies or some kind of like bubonic plague. I mean, you're not going to know what to do. So if it's hard, and I think it's really good too because they show Jim's kind of like humanity. At the beginning of the movie, like I just said, he struggles to kill the father, but by the end, he's going on a killing rampage, and so much so that Selena almost kills him because you really cannot tell if he's infected or not. And if us as an audience didn't know or didn't see the events before that scene, we would probably assume that he is infected as well. I mean, I know I would. So I really like the first one. His growth that it deals with, and the humanity that it tackles. I won't go too much in depth on that one anymore because I feel like most of this video has been about that, but it's just so good. I mean, if you're a fan of this now franchise, you'd understand. 28 Weeks Later is very good as well. It really is. But for me, it's more focused on like the intensity and the horror, whereas the first one had more character moments and stuff going on. I mean, the second one tries, I think, but I don't know. It just doesn't really hit the same for me, especially with some of the decisions that characters make. It's very non-unique to the genre, I guess. But that being said, I am very much looking forward to 28 Years Later. If a review is something that would interest anybody, or just me talking about it, I'd be happy to do it. I'm hoping to see it either tonight or tomorrow. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be really good. And I think if you liked the first one or the second one, or definitely both, you should be checking this movie out because, I mean, rumors are that it's going to be a new trilogy, and Cillian Murphy should be returning at some point during the 3 movies. So I'm pretty excited. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If not, let me know why in the comments. And if you did, let me know why as well.